Loud. All right, so we're recording now. So, hi everyone, welcome to our sixth episode of HSMAI Minnesota Live, and today we have a special episode with our past president Kelly VanDamme with the Expedia group, and she's going to do her Twin Cities submarket breakdown. So. Good seeing everyone again. This will probably be our last webinar of 2020. In 2021, our board is going to be getting together in a couple weeks here to try to plan 2021, and hopefully we can get back to more of a normal schedule, unlike what we had this year. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody in person again whenever we can have that. And so again, please connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or look at our website at hsmaiminnesota.com to get the most recent updates. Contact us with ideas if you have a property that you would like to host an event, if you're a vendor that would like to do education with us or sponsor an event. We're definitely open for all ideas going into our 2021 planning. But with that, I'll just turn it over to you, Kelly, and we can talk more about the Twin Cities submarket.
Great, thanks, Stephen. So for those of you who don't know me, let me update there. Just a little about myself. So I have been with Expedia for just over 10 years, 7 of which has been in the Twin Cities market. And prior to that, I was on the gaming team in Las Vegas. I'm originally from northern Minnesota, so I grew up in Babbitt, and I currently live in Duluth. And obviously, if that little Vegas part, I lived a lot of places in between before coming back here. And then I have a wonderful little son named Jack that just turned 3, and this is last year's Christmas picture. So he's 2 in that picture and much, much larger now. A few other fun facts about me is I have not bought store-bought bread in like 7 months. So I'm a devout sourdough bread baker now. And that's one of my new hobbies. And I also keep bees. So if you put all of my 3 pictures together, what that boils down to is my son's favorite breakfast is honey toast, and we eat it every day, and it's amazing. And if you're ever in Duluth, feel free to stop by to eat some honey toast with me. All right, now on to the fun stuff. So how are the Twin Cities doing just as a whole? So STR's latest update said the average occupancy for the country is 44.2. And the Twin Cities is sitting at 30%. It is the second lowest occupancy of any market in the US, second only to Oahu, I think. So we are seeing the full brunt of every bad thing that can possibly affect occupancy is happening to us right now. So that's not so super uplifting. But if we look at specific Expedia data, we can see that we're not really that far off of pace of a lot of other Midwest cities. We just happen to have a lower winter occupancy kind of to start with. So if we look at this, our room nights are down 53%, ADR is down 26%, and our average ADR is $96. So if we look at Chicago and Madison, we're not really that far off. They're actually doing a little worse year over year than we are. But the ADRs are very similar in decline. Kansas City, who I'm told the governor there has a very different viewpoint on COVID restrictions than a lot of other cities, they are seeing some kind of softer declines, so -36 in room nights and 12% in ADR. But again, the Midwest is all fairly negative, and we are right in line with most Midwest cities as far as year-over-year declines go. In kind of a hopeful note, so this is looking at stays for the next 12 months that have already been booked. And you can see we get back to some normal looking ADRs and some really strong year-over-year growth starting in April, May, and June. So there is some hope on the horizon. Obviously, no one knows what the world will look like at that point. But it does feel like if we can make it to spring, there's a lot of hope going on in the future. So just hang on to that as we scroll through all of these very negative numbers, and we can look forward to some future better trends. And hopefully next year we'll have just the greatest year over years that we could ever possibly imagine. So I promised you submarket data, and here is some submarket level data. So this is just a little mock-up of what most of the reporting I have looks like. So each submarket is its own little bubble. Most of the graphs, and I'll call it out when it's not, show share as the number, and then the color indicates how far or down year over year it is. So the darker the color, the further down year over year it is. So obviously these little bubbles don't mix perfectly with where all the hotels are, but it's just way too confusing to show every single little spot on this map. So here is kind of the actual territories. So northern Minneapolis is kind of that larger bubble, and you can kind of locate where your hotel is and find out what submarket you're in, and base your kind of what you're watching for and listening to based on where your hotel falls into in these bubbles. And then also keep in mind, this is the current share of each submarket. So Bloomington East, which is the mall and the airport, is 27% of all room nights booked in the past 28 days, followed by downtown Minneapolis at about 15% and Bloomington West at about 10%. So pre-COVID, Bloomington East and Bloomington West added together equaled pretty close to what downtown Minneapolis was. So we're seeing massive, massive declines in downtown Minneapolis, which I don't think is super surprising to anyone, but just to kind of get that scale, it's a very large share shift. All right, so moving on to some more specific data. So this is looking at submarkets room nights, and again showing where that share. These dots are showing the year over year declines. So the darker the color, the worse the year over years are. The bar on the right kind of spells out anything I really wanted to draw attention to. So again, the market's down 53%. Roseville has by far the best year over years, which it always hurts to say negative 29 is by far the best, but it really is. So Roseville's sort of the shining star of all the submarkets at the moment. And then really, really big decline in St. Paul near the main U and downtown Minneapolis. Okay, and then same kind of idea for ADRs. So the current average ADR in the last 28 days of everything booked is $96. You can see on this map the actual average ADR for the past 28 days by submarket. And then again, the color, the darker the color, the bigger the year over year decline. So again, those same markets that we're seeing some of the biggest declines in room nights are also the biggest ADR decliners, which is unfortunate, but they're also, if you look specifically downtown St. Paul and downtown Minneapolis University District, they also just have the highest overall ADR. So they've gotten massive declines, but the ADR is still the highest in the city from an actuals perspective. Another call out, North Minneapolis has very little ADR growth. So if you are a hotel in that submarket that would really, really like more room nights, you might want to look at your ADRs and see if there's any kind of meat on the bone to do some drops there, because it's definitely not in trend with the rest of the market at only 4%. If you don't want it, great to have as high as ADR as you possibly can, obviously, but that stood out to me as something I wanted to call out. All right, so now a little eye strain for you, but this is breaking down the submarket's ADR by star rating. So it doesn't really mean anything if you're comparing yourself to a 5-star and you're a 2-star. So this drills it down a little bit further to see really where your hotel is a little closer to what your comp set would be. So again, downtown Minneapolis has by far the highest ADRs, coupled with some of the biggest year over year declines. So just keep an eye out on that. If your actual ADRs are still pretty high. That's one of the factors driving a lot of those people to Bloomington, on top of parking fees and the mall being open and nothing in downtown Minneapolis being open. There's a lot of things working against downtown Minneapolis that I'm sure we're all aware of, but Bloomington really is picking up a ton of rooms that would have previously gone to downtown Minneapolis. So moving on, another slide that kind of just demonstrates that shift in share is this one. So Bloomington East's share is up about 7 points versus where it was last year, versus downtown is down about 8 points. The little teeny green dots are the ADR shift. So you can see the ADRs are fairly close together in year-over-year declines, but the room night shift is very, very drastic. Okay, so one of the other big trends of the COVID season in the past 28 days is how short the booking window is. So this has been true the entire time of COVID, and it doesn't seem to be going away. So in our market, 45% of all the bookings Expedia is seeing are coming in the 0 to 1 day window. So almost no lead time, or just kind of no lead time at all. When I color coded this to show where that was the biggest and strongest, it was super, super evident that the further away you are from Bloomington or downtown, the shorter your booking window becomes. So not super shocking to everyone, but I do think it is pretty surprising to see something like 55% of all the reservations in Plymouth are coming in the 0 to 1 day window. So that's very, very short term. And then that eases up into the mid 30s for downtown and university areas. All right, so this is again talking about the short booking window and one of the reasons for that. So you can see the 0 to 1 day window is what we were talking about, with the 45% of all bookings falling into it. And then the itty bitty green dot is the ADR. And you can see the 91 days is the furthest out on the right, how that sort of cascades down through time. So not any different than what this has always looked like, but it's a bigger jump in ADR between the 2 to 6 day and the 0 to 1 day. Which can lead to, if you're not actively managing your rates in the 0 to 1 day very, very closely, you could be missing the boat on that. So make sure you're spending a little extra time ensuring your rates are exactly where they need to be to capture that business. And mobile, our other kind of shining star of the COVID era, is our increase in mobile bookings. So right now, in the past 28 days, 59% of all our bookings are coming from some kind of mobile platform. And that's down only 30% year over year. So if you remember, our overall market trends were down in the negative 50s, and mobile is only down in the 30s. So significant shift to mobile channels. Another just really couple of call outs is White Bear Lake's mobile bookings are only down 4%. So everything booking in White Bear Lake that's new and exciting is happening on mobile, and their desktop bookings are just way down year over year. So whatever they're doing in White Bear Lake to strategize to get those mobile customers is really paying off. Another couple, and Roseville also pretty strong, only -7 with mobile year over year. And then just a couple little other facts. So for the time period I was able to pull ADRs for mobile, the ADR is averaging $90 for non-mobile and $84 for mobile. So a slight decline, but not a ton. And the cancellation rate for both of those is only 14% and stays the same across the board. So a caveat that this data in the green is from a different time period, so it's not going to match exactly what the other slides say. I think this is the last 90 days, or everything else is looking at the last 28 days. So again, the dark red dots are showing where the mobile share is the most declined year over year. meaning that bump up in mobile we're seeing is not as strong in downtown Minneapolis, in near the U, and downtown St. Paul. So hotels in those areas could really benefit from upping their mobile strategies to try and drive in some of that business that the rest of the market is seeing at a much more strong rate. And then international, I won't talk about this a ton, and you can see why. It's only 2% of the market right now for the last 28 days, and it's down 90% year over year. The only kind of standout for that is Woodbury is only 45% down internationally, and a 3% mix. So Woodbury, for whatever reason, is seeing slightly more international production. But other than that, across the board, very, very low numbers. But I do have one shining hope graph here. This is international production looking month by month into the future. And we start to see some of it come back in June and July pretty strongly. So again, these are pretty small numbers, but just to see that some is on the board is really a sign of hope that things are normalizing. People are thinking about coming back from international destinations, and that will pick up sometime this summer. And then another really hot button issue we've all seen is cancellation. So I wanted to break out by submarket what those cancellation rates look like. And what I found was really the bigger destinations have way, way, way more cancellations. So downtown Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Bloomington, significantly more cancellations than everyone else. But if you look at it from a market perspective, we're not that far off from everybody else. We're kind of right in the middle of the pack of the other Midwest cities that I was tracking. A lot of the reason that it's just so high in general is obviously the number of cases of COVID is going up in the past month. So we're starting to see kind of that next wave of cancellations happen. Normally, pre this last wave of COVID, cancellations were more close to 14% and significantly down year over year. So this is a new trend that's happened just in the past 28 days as the COVID numbers start to spike again. One other reason for those cancellations is, again, back to this booking window chart. So if you are not actively managing your same day and 1 day out rates, there's a huge chance that someone who booked in that 7 to 13 day window is going to cancel at your hotel and book somewhere else that's showing significant savings. So just one more reason to kind of stay in the game for those really, really last minute bookings to avoid that cancellation and rebook at a different property thing that's happening. I don't have really good stats on it, but it's definitely something I've heard anecdotally from hotels that they're seeing happen. And one way to combat that, and again, this is from the 90-day period, so not the stats don't match, but we have our two different payment products, the Hotel Collect and Expedia Collect. So obviously, Hotel Collect, they pay you directly when they check in or check out. That has a significantly higher cancellation rate than the Expedia Collect, where they pay at the time of booking through Expedia and have a few more cancellation hoops to jump through. So one way you can adjust some of that cancellation is to look at strategies that fall more heavily into the Expedia Collect zone. And we can speak specifically about your properties on ways to do that, but just wanted to call that out as a easy way to shift to something that's a little bit more or less prone to cancellation. So you're probably saying, well, that seems like a really good idea, reason to make my rooms non-refundable. Then people just can't cancel. And I have some pretty shocking data that I saved for the end because please don't do that. So this data was the stuff I thought was the most surprising to me. And most of that is because we just got access to this cut of data last week. So I've never seen it before, but it was pretty startling to me. So what we're looking at here is the submarkets. The number indicates the share of what type of for non-refundable. So overall, the market is only seeing 4% of all bookings booked on non-refundable types of cancellation policies. And then 90% of it falls into standard within 24-hour cancellation policies. The gap in that is people that have like a 48-hour cancellation policy or something other than 24 hours. and then the wild decline we're seeing in non-refundable bookings. So 87% declines in non-refundable bookings. So last year it was, I think, 13% of overall bookings were non-refundable, and this year it's down to 4%. So significant changes in what guests want, and they do not want non-refundable rooms. So please do not throw all of your best promotions onto non-refundable strategies. It's kind of, I think people would rather have the flexibility than a discount at the moment, unless your discount's going to be just incredibly off the charts good. That strategy is just going to be pretty challenging right now. This next view looks at the refundable rates. So huge numbers in most submarkets are refundable. And you can see even Roseville is up 25% year over year in refundable rates. So all of their declines are coming from their non-refundable strategies that were working last year and are not working this year. And their shift to refundable strategies at several of the hotels there has propelled that submarket into the only positive number I could find in all of these charts. So again, kudos to Roseville. And then I just kind of wanted to end off in a sort of sappy but hopeful message. So yesterday on LinkedIn, the CEO of Remington posted a really nice message about the future. And his name is Sloan Dean. If you don't follow him, highly recommend. He's a great follow on LinkedIn. But basically what he said is the winter solstice is coming on December 21st, and it correlates with kind of the darkest times we can have in winter. And Minnesota always gets hit by winter harder than most places. So just like normal winter, we are seeing this darkest time of COVID a little worse than everyone else. But his reminder was that the solstice is coming in June, and we have a lot of promises that vaccines will be ready and people will be really eager to travel by then. And so we're really close to our darkest day, but we know summer is right around the corner, and we just have to kind of hang through till we get to summer. And to whatever you do, don't rely on those non-refundable strategies. As my last parting message to you guys is the thing I hope you remember the most from this webinar. So if you have any questions for me, my email is everywhere, hopefully, but it's kvandam@expediagroup.com. Happy to deep dive individual hotel problems and work through things on an individual level. Just let me know when you'd like to do that, and I'm always here. Thanks, Stephen.
All right. Great. Thanks, Kelly. I'm going to ask a couple of questions here, if you don't mind. Yeah, good ending there. I think in Minnesota, I think it's December 21st or something like that, which is our shortest day of the year. And so everyone's, it's going to get darker until then. I'm not sure if that's a prediction for anything else besides the weather. Hopefully it's not. But that's just a date that always sticks in our mind. Like, okay, once we get past December 21st, then it starts to get lighter and we gain daylight hours back. So that's an interesting perspective. So, but on the hotel, on your data notes, you talked about Expedia Collect. I know our hotels at Radisson are using both platforms. Is there any way, and for other hotels or brands that are using both platforms, is there any way to take advantage of using Collect versus Expedia Collect versus Hotel Collect? Or is it just a pretty much a guest preference?
The guest does get preference most of the time, and it really depends on your connectivity setup, but there are ways to kind of change what offerings go with what rate plans. It can get kind of complex when there's a lot of connectivity, but things like package are always Expedia Collect.
Okay.
Anything with our affiliate network is almost always Expedia Collect. So there's subtle things you can do to sort of push to make those offers shine a little brighter than the Hotel Collect version.
Okay. Okay, makes sense. So crafting your offers that way. All right. What about the other one that came out was obviously you talked about non-refundable not being the fence we should use anymore, and and anyone who's been working with um, watching hotel bookings and stays over the last few months know that travelers they want to have flexibility, I should say. And is there any sort of middle ground between refundable and non-refundable? I know some offers out there are refundable, but they're only refundable till a week before booking or a week before staying. Is there any flexibility that Expedia offers in that range that could allow a hotel to present an offer with a little less flexibility, uh, but it gives them the comfort of more of a secure booking, at least in a 7-day window or something like that?
Yeah, we can set up almost any. I've never seen a cancellation policy we can't
Oh,
set
okay,
up.
okay,
But it really, anything more than 24 hours has that profound effect on bookings. So it needs to be attached to something with a really solid offer to compel people to take that risk. And even
okay.
then, it's definitely going to hinder anything actually booking on it. So very, very careful with cancellation policies that are anything more than 24 hours.
Okay. Okay, makes sense. Is there anything that you're seeing farther out in the future? Maybe I missed that um, in the presentation. As far as bookings into 21 at all in our markets, any bright spots there?
Yeah, the very first slide talked about it a little bit, and honestly, there's just so few pinpointed specific event dates like we normally
Hmm.
have tons of that I didn't want to spend a ton of time on it because I think most hotels are so focused on trying to do anything to make like the next 90 days work.
Right.
And
Okay,
then,
there it is.
yeah, so we're seeing really great ADRs in May, June. And then the black line is net room nights year over year. So April, May, May a little, April, June, July, August are doing very, very well year over year, which I think speaks a little bit to people's appetite to kind of just get stuff on the books. We normally don't see a crazy amount of bookings that far out. So to see, and this is based off of where we were last year, which is unaffected by COVID as well. So these are
Mhm.
true actual year over year improvements that haven't had the COVID messiness put into them yet. So actual real big improvements
Okay.
in
Oh,
those
good.
months.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, so there are exciting things hopefully coming if we can make it to Sloan's summer solstice date as his
June's a long ways away. I hope it gets here before then. uh, of course. Okay, that's good. Does anyone else on the phone have any questions for Kelly while we have her online? Okay. Um, I know there was some connectivity issues to the meeting, so we are recording this meeting and we're going to post it to the HSMAI YouTube page, and we'll have it on LinkedIn and we'll have it on our website. So there's definitely access to get it if you joined a few minutes late because of that issue, or if you had some colleagues that weren't able to join. Please feel free to share with them the recording once it comes out. I will send a link to the recording to everyone who registered to this meeting. And so we should be able to get this information out to our partners and our hospitality professionals in the Twin Cities. Um, but like I said in the beginning, HSMAI Minnesota is working on planning hopefully an eventful 2021. We've had a lot of information shared. It's all this year, despite the pandemic, it's all on our website. It's all on our YouTube page. So if you want to go back and look at some old uh, meetings and webinars, they're all saved out there, along with a bunch of other information to get in touch with us. So continue to follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook and our website, and we'll continue providing more information for you. And with that, we wish you a happy holiday season if we don't see or talk to you. And everyone stay safe, and we look forward to working with you more next year. And again, special thanks to Kelly for giving us always good market specific data.
No problem. Thanks, Stephen.
All right, bye everyone.